I started hearing whispers of Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine.
As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
We are no Jedi.
This is the Rebel Force Radio Ahsoka After Show.
May the Force be with you.
Well, I suppose one might say that this week's episode of Ahsoka is out with the old and in with the new. You know, last week's episode was fantastic. Everybody was buzzing about it. Even those that have been icy or critical of the series up to that point. Of course, Anakin Skywalker back in the form of Hayden Christensen. Who could argue with that? It's fantastic. But the word that I'm hearing associated with this week's episode is world building. If last week sort of represented the past of Star Wars, this week's episode very well may represent the future of Star Wars. We've got a whole new galaxy. It literally is us taking our steps into not just a larger world, but a whole new galaxy, which we have not done before, not in animation or in live action. So this is very exciting. Glad that you are all here. I was thinking earlier today, I feel almost bad for people who are watching this show and not joining us on these after shows because they just add such a great layer of enjoyment. For me, I hope you're getting a lot out of it, and we sure enjoy doing them. So thanks again for being here. RFR After Show, Ahsoka looking at part 6. And I know someone who always enjoys being here with you all each and every week, and that is, of course, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Jason, Star Wars fans, it is I, Jimmy Mack the White, coming at you from the other side of the world between worlds. And enough. What kind of insanity? I told you I would return as Jimmy Mack the White, and damn it, I'm here.
That's commitment.
I can't carry on with that charade, with the pillowcase on my head and everything for the rest of the show. So it's going to be me.
You're not going to live your act.
White t-shirt. That's pretty good. Here's one for you, Swank. This is one for the YouTube audience.
Okay.
Jimmy Mack, the black and white. There you go.
Oh,
so it's a little painting of me. Look at that.
And who, pray tell, did this? Who has this kind of time on their hands?
Bill Madia from Chicago area. He's an artist. And oh, look, I want to push back on that. It's the dynamic duo of podcasting right there on little tiny 2x2 inch pieces of canvas.
Little tiny 2x2. No, that is very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you a sense of the scale, it's
look at that.
There you go.
Wow, I'm honored.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. My good friend and yours, Jimmy Mack. Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans.
By the way, are you all getting Mac's impression of me? I finally figured he's finally done a me. I do him all the time, and he's finally done a me. No, that's very cool. It's very nice of him to send that. But oh my goodness, this episode was a roller coaster for me. I got to tell you. I mean, I will say this from the outset: if you only watched it once and were maybe lukewarm, I highly recommend watching it again. This is one that improved big time for me, and I think, well, one of the reasons was there's an awful lot of dialogue, so I was able to soak the dialogue in. We've talked about this before, where when you're watching new Star Wars, you're so kind of anxious and anticipating the next scene, the next big reveal, so you sometimes just need to chill out, and it's that second viewing that allows me to chill out and sort of accept what I'm seeing on screen instead of sort of guessing what the next thing might be or what, because we all do that. We play games with ourselves, what's going to happen next. So the second viewing for me was critical, and I loved the whimsy, I loved the wacky, I loved the new aliens, I loved the new beasts, I loved the new planet. I really liked what I said earlier, which is what everyone's talking about, the world building of this one. This was a pretty big, I think, and bold step forward for Dave Filoni and what he's contributing, I think, to live action Star Wars.
Yeah, it was a great episode, I thought, but, not perfect. There were a couple things out there here and there, but for the most part, I thought it was really good. And the reason I believe that is because there was meat on the bone. There were a lot of bones
in that around that planet too. So
yeah, visual. There was stuff, great stuff here.
Yeah,
real
cool.
Star Wars moments. To me, this episode felt more like a live action episode of Star Wars Rebels than anything we've seen thus far. It really, really felt like live action Rebels, and there was a lot of eye candy in this thing. And the reason why I believe I liked it a lot is because the second time I watched it was like a 3-hour screening. I kept stopping to take notes. A lot of the stuff I'll be barfing back at everyone tonight because I really needed to get my thoughts straight on a lot of things that were happening throughout this episode. I mean, history and background and whimsical stuff, like you said, Swank. Visiting new characters being introduced, two big characters being reintroduced, and just a lot of things that to me reeked of Star Wars aesthetic. And I think it was a really good episode. And I'm not just simply riding a high from last week, but because it was the last thing I thought about when I went to bed last night. It was the first thing I thought about all morning long. So that to me
that's a sign of something.
Yes. When it resonates.
I agree.
Yeah.
It gave us stuff to chew on, which I like. Yeah, well, it's that meat that we talked about, the meat on the Purgle bones that were forming those rings around Peridia. I love that. Not a lot of Ahsoka in it, that's for sure, for the title character. She's in it for about 3 or 4 minutes. But I thought that conversation that opened the episode between her and Hu Yang was interesting. It was revealing. There were a couple of things that stood out to me. One of them is when Hu Yang says to her, well, I got it written down here. They're talking about, or she's talking about how she didn't tell Hera that Sabine went willingly with the enemy. And she's blaming herself. She's sort of kicking herself, saying, well, I didn't have enough time to train her so that she would make the right choice. Because you remember in that episode prior, she was priming Sabine, saying, there might be a moment when we have to make a choice between Ezra and Thrawn coming back. Will you make the right choice? And that certainly foreshadowed what ended up happening. And Ahsoka's chalking it up to, I just didn't have enough time to train her in the Force so that she would make the right choice. And Hu Yang says that the Force provides you with insight, but it does not give one all the answers. And perhaps for Sabine, this was the only choice. There was no other choice for Sabine. She could not have said no to the possibility of finding Ezra.
Yeah. And I wonder what that actually means. That must mean something. Did Ezra somehow plant some kind of mission in Sabine via the Force? She inherited his lightsaber. And we've seen, at least in Rise of Skywalker, that the lightsaber itself can trigger some Force abilities that might have been latent within someone. I believe when Rey snagged Luke's lightsaber in The Force Awakens, that did something to open up Force abilities within her that might have been resting dormant. So the same thing could have happened with Sabine when she inherited Ezra's lightsaber from Chopper, when Ezra went to face down Thrawn on the Chimera during the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, season 4, the series finale. So maybe it'll be revealed that just her having mere possession of the lightsaber and the Kyber crystal within it there could be some sort of Force mojo that moved its way over to Sabine. So much so that's why Ahsoka decided to start training her. So it
Boy,
might
that
be
would be,
Ezra.
that would have, that's a lot of detail to leave out if that's true.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's fill in the blank storytelling. Still to this point, part 6, there's a lot of fill in the blank stuff going on here. But I mean, that's just a wild idea I came up with, because they say that it was something Sabine really couldn't deny doing. She couldn't deny herself doing it. Why is that?
Well, here's what I think. I think, and this comes up later between Sabine and Thrawn. This is about Sabine's big gamble. Thrawn even says, you've gambled the fate of your galaxy, of the galaxy, on this, on finding this guy. And I think that it's very similar to the decision that Luke Skywalker made in The Empire Strikes Back, with going to Cloud City and trying to rescue Leia and Han and Chewie and 3PO and I think that's what it is, because it's about sacrifice, but at what cost? I think there's going to be just like there was for Luke. Luke lost his hand, and he also got the news that Vader was his father. You can debate whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing. Yoda seemed to think that Luke wasn't ready for that information. Vader sprung it on him. So Luke, there was a cost for Luke, and there was also a cost for the galaxy. We talked about maybe it could have shortened the war in the long run. So I think there's going to be a big cost for Sabine. I don't think I hope, because I think that we need to see that there's got to be, she's got to lose something for this. Because otherwise, I got to tell you, and this is the one big gripe I had with this episode, finding Ezra was the least climactic thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, no surprise. No, I just kept waiting. I knew how it was going to happen. I knew you were just going to hear his voice from off screen, and it was going to be some quip about how long it took her to find him, and it was, damn if that wasn't it. Not that I didn't enjoy seeing them reunited, but man, oh man, was it predictable and anticlimactic.
All right, you're throwing a couple things out there. Number one, will Sabine pay some sort of price for doing what she did, for betraying not only her friendship to Ahsoka and everything she stands up for, she's putting the entire galaxy at peril, because I mean, it's like a sure thing that Thrawn is going to come back to the galaxy that we know and raise holy hell. I mean, everyone has come to that conclusion. So what is the price that Sabine's going to pay? Well, maybe we'll see the death of Ezra in her arms because of a mistake she made in the heat of the moment. Then it will have all been for nothing for her. Okay, that's just a thought there. But I see Ezra as being almost a disposable character, believe it or not.
Is Ezra a MacGuffin?
Possibly, and this is a series that's chock full of MacGuffins. But since you threw it out there, I want to talk a little bit about Sabine finding Ezra at the Hermit Crab Trailer Park. Okay. It was it was a pretty easy path to Ezra after the very complicated journey to Peridia.
Yes.
Or is it Peridia? I think they say it both ways in the show.
Yes, it is. Peridia and Peridia. Yes, it's been mentioned both ways. Yeah.
Peridia. Yeah. However Baylan says it is, I got to get consistent with that. But for now, I'm going to say Peridia. So Sabine, she finds the hermit crab guys, and they're called the Noti, N-O-T-I. Naughty. Oh, behave. So it's so simple. She meets these guys. They're essentially the first guys she meets outside of the bandits that tried to mess with her, and she put an end to that real fast with some lightsaber skills. But I mean, all Sabine had to do was ask the hermit crabs, the Noti, about Ezra. They say they know him. They march her right to Ezra in their trailer park. So I was I have to admit, like you, Jason, I was a little disappointed because I thought the Noti would serve in more of like a Wizard of Oz Munchkin type capacity, and they like point Sabine in the right direction to start her journey. I didn't think they were just going to simply walk her right to the solution / reunion. So there was no challenge. There was no journey. There was no drama. All too easy, as Darth Vader would say. I have a writer's room suggestion, though. I would say maybe save the bandits for after Sabine meets up with the hermit crab guys, and they then attack as they're making their trek back to Ezra. They get attacked. Maybe a few of the Noti get wiped out, raises the stakes. And then, Sabine mows down the bandits as she does with the saber, but it raises the stake. It raises the level of drama. This was just very easy. It was very easy. The reunion was nice. It was satisfying to a degree after waiting for the Ezra disappearance mystery to be resolved. I mean, when was that? 2018?
Yeah.
I think, that's 5 years. I thought the casting is great. That is Sabine.
He was great.
That is Ezra.
Yes. What is that? He was the one actor name I did not pull out. But the chat knows. It's not a huge detail, but I thought he was superbly cast. His voice was almost a double, except he doesn't do that annoying thing where he trails off when he talks like this, like in the animation. Just thank God. He still has breath in his lungs at the end of his line, but he was great. My daughter thought he looked like Jesus. She's like, "Is that Jesus?" I'm like, "No, they're not in that galaxy."
I just find it interesting and almost suspicious that outside the beard and maybe growing in height a few inches, he's like the same Ezra we left, who split from Lothal. It almost seems like he's gone for a weekend or maybe a summer.
Yeah.
He was away at summer camp and, went away as a boy, came back a man. It just didn't seem like much time had taken place, and we were given no clues about anything he'd been up to over the last 10 years. What has been his
well, we do know that
relationship with Thrawn, for lack of a better word.
That's a huge one.
But
yeah,
how
but
do
what's
they
the
exist
dynamic
in the same space?
Right.
That's what I'd like to know.
Is he in hiding? I mean, certainly the Noti are in hiding. They are nomads, and they carry their houses with them, which is great.
Right.
He has given them really emblems. They're carrying the rebel cog, the rebel logo. So if they were to be
them.
right, if they were to be found, that would give Thrawn a clue that they were hanging with Ezra. So I started feeling like he's not really in hiding. Like, where's he going to go? I think that's, do you remember in the Bond movie with Christopher Lee, the man with the golden gun, and he has a good night with him there on that incredible island. And she's there as his hostage, but he doesn't have her in chains or anything, because where's she going to go? He says he just lets her go about doing her thing. That's kind of a weird illusion, but I think that's kind of what Ezra's got going on with Thrawn. Where is he going to go? He's of no threat to Thrawn, clearly. Thrawn has a whole army. So it's like they're coexisting. I mean, Thrawn kept tabs on him. We know that.
Maybe Thrawn just, he's all about the practical nature and strategy of running an empire. And so with that in mind, maybe his strategy was keep Bridger alive, because he almost acts as a beacon that could attract somebody to come and try to rescue him. And then Thrawn and his motley crew of stormtroopers will be able to overtake whoever comes to rescue Ezra and take off in their ship. Maybe that's the plan.
I think you are dead on right, because it fits the pattern of Thrawn. Oh, Sabine will be useful. Oh,
Yes,
Ahsoka
useful.
Tano will be useful. Everyone's useful to him. Everyone is just a means. And that's where the whole, because he's not brutal. He is cold. He is heartless. He is cunning. People and things just don't seem to have any real meaning to him. Everything is a chess piece on the board as he's strategizing in all of this. So yeah, that's a great point that Ezra is worth more to him. As much as he might have a personal grudge, Thrawn's able to put that behind the greater goal, which is to get off of that damn place. And as you say, Jim, what better way to lure someone there for the rescue that he can always hijack the rescue, leave Ezra alive.
Yes. And one other thing to point out about Ezra, he's casually wearing that chainmail that was made so popular in the Star Wars universe by none other than Baby Yoda. But, obviously that indicates that every day, it's not like he's kicking back at the resort. There's definitely challenges presenting themselves to him because he's ready. He has protection. He has armor on at all times. So
nomads.
Well, yeah, he's with the nomads.
Well, I mean, but there's a lot of hostile. Those nomads that Sabine took.
Bandits.
The bandits. Yeah, bandits, nomads. Whatever.
The bandits.
The bandits.
Smoking the bandits. The bandits. So, I believe that the Notis are going to serve as an Ewok kind of role. And they will eventually be called into battle at some point. There'll be some conflict between the bandits who Baylan Skoll is recruiting.
Little Noti was just like Wicket with Leia. Little Noti and Sabine. It was very similar. And then he leads her to their village.
They serve similar roles. So the little guy will have to rise up and fight against the big tough guy. And that's what's going to happen, I think, because the bandits will become allies of Baylan while the Notis are allies of Ezra already. And that'll be part of the final conflict on Paradia. But I want to point out something I noticed about the bandits. They speak the same language as the little hermit crab.
As the Noti. Yeah. It's the Noti language.
So that just must be the primary language of the planet.
I always got in trouble when I spoke Noti.
Yeah. Well, because you only knew all the dirty words.
I got the wooden spoon on my.
But like Huttese, it's a language spoken by non-Hutts. So Noti language must be what they speak on Paradia.
Yeah. I want to jump back real quick to the Hu Yang and Ahsoka conversation, because I want to ask you, Jim, what you made of this line when Ahsoka's talking about that Sabine made the choice for herself, and Hu Yang says, "That is your fear." That's one of those that's been rattling around in my head, because then she quickly changes the subject and goes, "Oh, tell me one of your stories." And that is your fear, that Sabine made the choice for herself. Why is that her fear? What does that represent? Does it represent selfishness? Does it represent not being able to see the larger picture? But there was something very ominous about it, so much so that it made Ahsoka very uncomfortable, and she wanted to change the subject. So if Sabine made the choice to find Ezra and risk the return of Thrawn, that was a choice that she made for herself, not for anyone else. That is a fear that Ahsoka has. The only thing I came up with there was this whole idea of attachment and putting that ahead. And the reason that the Jedi aren't for attachment is because it tends to lead people to, be very possessive, selfish, not put the greater good ahead of their personal relationships, things like that. So that one for me was a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah. And it blows my whole theory about Ezra somehow projecting the Force onto Sabine to, get her to come out and rescue him.
Yeah, none of it adds up.
Yeah, it's definitely, a free will thing. Now, we had people in the chat saying, well, Ezra in the hologram told Sabine to come after him. I don't think that's true.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember his exact wording, but he was just like, you know what to do. I'm counting on you, is what he said.
Yeah, I'm counting on you, but
I'm counting on you. So that's kind of vague.
I'm counting on you to come and find me? I mean, that's asking a lot. And Ezra made this. Here's what doesn't add up to me. Ezra made this huge selfless act, saving his friends, exiling him and Thrawn into literally another galaxy. At the time, he didn't even know if he'd survive it. It was a very selfless act. And now he comes on, he's like, and now it's time for you to rescue me. Like, I just don't buy that. I don't think that's it. I think he wanted her to keep up the good fight of the rebellion, and that he was counting on her to, win one for the Gipper, so to speak, but not to come and rescue him.
If anybody actually owed Ezra a rescue, that would be Ahsoka herself, because his actions pulled her out of that Vader fight for long enough for her to avoid the death blow from Darth, which was happening in the moment, and gave her a second chance after she went back through the portal and the fight had ended. And Vader left Malachor. Everyone left Malachor. I wonder how long Ahsoka spent time stranded there before she finally found a way off planet. That could explain where she has been, during the course of the original trilogy era. Maybe it took her until after all of the Galactic Civil War had come and gone, she had finally hitched a ride back somehow.
Yeah.
That's just a guess I've had. So, but I believe if anyone is on the hook to go out and save Ezra Bridger, it's the one who is most resistant to the whole idea, and that's Ahsoka. So,
yeah,
she thinks the risk of unleashing Thrawn is too great. But we don't know anything about why. We don't know anything about why Ahsoka is so sold on the idea that Thrawn was alive in the first place. Yes, she was right. And why she believes he'll return, and that will mean war for sure. She says it when she's talking to Huang there at the beginning, that she knows of Sabine's betrayal via a force vision she had when she held the map. So there's some solid exposition right there. She says, if she didn't go, there'd be no Thrawn, no war. She comes to a conclusion. So Ahsoka had a force vision that warned her of Thrawn's imminent return and the danger he will bring. She had that conclusion, and I've had that conclusion myself as a viewer playing fill-in-the-blank storytelling with the guys. So I hope that gets revealed, but I don't think it's ever going to be. There was rumors about Thrawn's imminent return, and so Ahsoka sprung into action. And that's really all we need to know. But yet, when the New Republic demanded proof of what Morgan Elsbeth was up to, they demanded proof of Thrawn being alive. I mean, Hera couldn't supply anything to them. Wouldn't Ahsoka have shared whatever intel she actually had if she had legitimate physical evidence? Would she have shared that with Hera? No, she couldn't, because it's a force vision. She saw the future, and that's what it told her. But as Huang says, it provides one with insight, but not all the answers, because always in motion the future is.
Another question that I have, and we could spin this off forever, but if this series is taking place concurrently with the events of Mandalorian season 3, and we know that the Shadow Council is hearing rumors of Thrawn's imminent return, I wonder who's fueling those rumors, where those are coming from, who's the channel back to these warlords, and and Gideon. I mean, Gideon. My sense is, looking at this now in context with what we heard the Shadow Council say, I think it sort of accelerated Gideon's plans. I think Gideon wasn't sure if Thrawn was coming back. He was playing it like he didn't believe it, but maybe there was a part of him that did. And so he was really trying to assert himself quickly, make it happen so that Thrawn wouldn't even pose a threat to him because he wanted to be the new order. So I'm just wondering who that back channel is. Is it Elsbeth? Is it a spy maybe within the New Republic? Perhaps, that could be, if Hera and Ahsoka are throwing around the rumors of Thrawn's return or potential return, and she's saying it right there in front of, who is the guy, the senator that had the son that was in the series. Hold on, I got it right here. What am I doing? I got it right here. Senator J. Kell. No, the other one. Senator Jono. Senator Jono. So Senator Jono is there, and he seems like, we had reason to believe that he was up to no good. So maybe he's a back channel to the Shadow Council. Just trying to sort of keep this all together.
Who is he?
Jono?
Jono?
Jono's son is Kaz.
Oh,
yeah, Kaz.
Ziono.
Yeah, Jono. Jono. So, yeah, whatever.
Ziono. And his cousin Bozo.
So maybe he's an agent or is providing. So someone's providing intel to
tipping him off.
Yeah, right.
Maybe he's affiliated with Morgan Elsbeth somehow.
I think he's going to come back. We're going to find out why Hera was so suspicious of him. She was throwing shade.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Hey, how about this, man? The origin of the Dathomir witches explained. We thought that they were weird. I remember when they came around, and I'm like, I don't know, witches in Star Wars. It seems weird. And then, of course, someone brought up, probably Mac, the Ewok movie with that witch. And now I realize why they didn't, at the time, seem to fit for me. And that's because they're not from a galaxy far, far away. They're from another galaxy far, far away.
Yes.
But it's still cool to get their origins, knowing that they rode the great beasts. They were the first to ride the great beasts, the Purgils, into another galaxy.
I love seeing the Eye of Sion approach Paradia.
Well, that was awesome.
That planet and the galaxy next door. But it turns out, it's the ancient ancestral homeworld of the Nightsisters of Dathomir, a.k.a. the Dathomiri. Dathomiri. And it looks like, I love the approach as the Eye of Sion was flying in and, through the ring that surrounds the planet, and it's comprised of not like gas or asteroids or rock, but of whale bone.
Oh, that was great. It's like an elephant graveyard. It was so cool.
It was so cool. So cool. Especially, like, for some reason, I'm a big fan of when they fly by the rib cage. I was like, rib cage. Maybe it's the old Flintstones fan in me or something. I don't know what it is. But for some reason,
throw it on the car.
You can scatter a bunch of bones out there, but if you're going to throw out a fully intact rib cage, that's when the special effects guys, they care. That's going above and beyond. Thank you, guys.
It was awesome.
So it's where Purgils go to die.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. They reveal that the Nightsisters could ride the Purgils.
Right.
So, they were able to ride the Rancors in the old expanded universe. They tamed Rancors and were able to ride them around, but they go even bigger. They go Purgils, and who else can ride a Purgil? Ahsoka. So is she not only using the Force, but is she also tapping into some sort of Nightsister magic somehow? Maybe not even realizing she's doing it. But that's a thought that crossed my eye and crossed my mind and my eye. It was all very visual. Speaking of great visuals, I can't wait to see the Eye of Sion, wrap itself around Thrawn's Star Destroyer and suck that thing out into hyperspace, because that's
that's coming. We know that's coming.
Cool visual. But the Night Mothers, as they're called, not Nightsisters, these are the
great mothers.
The
great mothers.
They're more than just mothers; they're great mothers. And they were able to communicate with Morgan Elsbeth. Morgan Elsbeth in the next galaxy, who happens to be an ancestor of the Nightsisters or the Dathomiri, and pals with Grand Admiral Thrawn. Does Thrawn have a horseshoe up his butt or what? He could have been sucked out to anywhere, but he goes to the ancestral world of the Nightsisters, and he just happens to be pals with the Nightsister back at home.
Well,
I mean,
how
it
do
pays
you
the
like
network.
that? What are the odds?
It pays the network. It really does. But it answers the question, how was Thrawn able to communicate with Morgan from another galaxy?
Well, he was communicating via the witches. We thought that might be the case after we saw Morgan communicating with Baylan and Shin Hati, where they were sort of that ethereal, greenish, dusty shape. But she says that she said, you heard us in your dreams. You heard our call to you in your dreams. That's what the Great Mother says to Morgan Elsbeth. So maybe it wasn't even that clear. Maybe it was, some sort of trance or, something that she did in order to have that communication.
Interesting, because Baylan refers to the planet as a place of dreams and madness.
Yeah, Baylan is completely nonplussed by this. Baylan is there to find something, but he wants, dream. Yeah, childhood dream. His.
I see that every time I get off the plane in L.A.
Yeah. Yeah,
Every
dreams
time.
and madness. He goes, it's like children's stories come to life. It's like he's not impressed by it. I think it bugs him. There's something there, as we know, we'll talk about, something that calls to him. And that's really important because his ambitions are certainly on display. I thought it was funny that the witch is called the Jedi and it. It is dangerous. They really need to work on their pronoun sensitivity because, it's not okay.
Slow down there, Chief. You're throwing out a lot of stuff here, and I got to comment on all of it, okay? So it says, calls Sabine it, not necessarily Jedi. She says it reeks of Jedi.
Yes.
So I think at that point, Sabine's latent force powers have been exposed to us as an audience. We've been wondering, does she feel the force? Does she have the force? I think the Nightsister, feeling something coming off of her from the light side of the force, repelled her, and that confirms Sabine has force power. It's like a similar storytelling device to Qui-Gon taking Anakin Skywalker's blood sample and checking it for midichlorians. It's very similar, Anakin off the charts, Sabine reeks of Jedi, or I always have an option here, guys, when I'm speculating and analyzing this crap. Maybe like the scent of Ahsoka rubbed off on Sabine, and the Nightsister is like a dog smelling another dog on your pant leg when you come back from your buddy's house after watching the Bears game, and his dog is very enthusiastic.
It sounds like you can really relate to that. It sounds like a very personal anecdote.
Yes. So I mean, but I think it's more of an indication of latent force abilities within Sabine. And the Nightsister is really she's feeling it.
What if they were off track by about 5 feet and they were actually sensing the Jedi in Shin Hati or Baylan Skoll? I mean, Baylan Skoll, we now know, was a general in the Clone Wars. That's about as Jedi as you can get.
Yeah, but they had those little magic balls and they floated over towards Sabine and not the other two. So I think that kind of rules them out.
Yeah.
But speaking of Shin, though, it's clear our pal Shin is absolutely spooked by these Dathomiri. She's like, more witches.
Yeah, she's not cool. She's not cool with it at all. I like that she's sort of us, in a way. Where she's like, oh, man, more witches.
She's spooked, and she's naive too. She's pretty green, and that comes out a few times in this episode too. And I like the humanity they're giving her character. I like the straightforward nature of the character, and it's very interesting. Either she's going to inherit the mantle of Baylan Skoll, or she's going to turn on him and kill him. It's Star Wars,
Right.
That's kind of how that goes.
So Baylan, doesn't put all of his cards on the table here, but we start to see his ambitions materialize, that's for sure. And Jim, he's on a similar mission that maybe you could say Luke Skywalker was on, wanting to end the cycle. The Jedi fall, the Empire rises. He says he's seeking the beginning. He wants to bring this cycle to an end once and for all. And he believes that the beginning is on Peridea only if the stories are true. And what he's realizing, and that's why he points out that this is a place of, child stories and madness, or wherever he puts it, that so far he's ticking the boxes. And it's like, yep, this is all adding up. It sounds like these stories are actually true. He says something is calling to me, a power greater than they know. They're fleeing a power greater than theirs. And he's talking about Thrawn and the Great Mothers. So what is there on Peridea that Baylan believes that he can harness, that he can serve? What could it be? I'm seeing people say, it's Mortis, it's the son, it's the father, or it's the what's the big moose guy from Rebels? It's the
Bendu.
The Bendu.
The one in the middle.
Or is it this Joris Sabaoth type character? Is it a Jedi, an enigmatic Jedi, all powerful, that is somewhere on that planet? So there's a lot of possibilities. You have any guesses?
Oh yeah.
I thought you
would.
would.
Yes, I do. Oh yes. I just enjoyed a lot of the Baylan moments in this episode, especially the stuff about his backstory. He was a little older than Shin when Order 66 went down, and he was at the Jedi Temple and saw it burn. And what we know about him already coming into this episode, we know he's a former Jedi who lost his faith, but yet is still training an apprentice. Not necessarily a Padawan, but he still has taken on an apprentice. And he's been working as a mercenary, or at least that's the front he's putting up.
Mm-hmm.
So as you mentioned, very similar to Luke, as he was in exile on Ahch-To, Baylan is recognizing a cycle. And it's a cycle of power repeating itself throughout history, time and time again, and nothing gets achieved in the process. So he says, fall of the Jedi, rise of the Empire, rinse and repeat. And but I know he doesn't say Sith specifically. He says Empire, which to me tips off. He's showing his hand a little bit here, that he is not above tapping into the dark side at all, despite his background as a Jedi. But I still am trying to figure out.
Why do you say that? Why does this imply dark force use?
Because he believes the system of an empire is the other end of the spectrum from the Jedi. He doesn't say Sith. He says fall of the Jedi, rise of the Empire, time and time and time again. So
that is interesting because he should, of all people, know what was at the heart of the major conflict of the Clone Wars and the aftermath with Palpatine. Or is he misguided? Does he not know that it came down to a Sith Lord?
Yes.
Could he be mistaken?
I don't think he wants to limit himself as the Jedi had always limited anyone within the Order to consider the dark side usage as unnatural. And so I think about, Luke out on Ahch-To, he cut himself off from the Force to stop the back and forth between Sith and Jedi. But what is Baylan looking for? I think he's looking for something bigger than everything. He's looking for a total reset in the way that people use the Force. And the reset would be this: the introduction of the gray Force user. I didn't say gray Jedi, okay? I said gray Force user who can tap into both the light side and the dark side. And according to the folktales that Baylan had heard, he must believe that the power to change the way the Force is used is found on Peridea. Now, I know Yoda once said, once you travel down the dark path forever, it will hold your destiny. But maybe that's just from Yoda's perspective, but not necessarily true. Maybe there is a way to tap into the dark side without it totally consuming the Force user. But that skill is unknown to the Jedi. And it's a power that always eluded Yoda and the Jedi, the power to tap into both the light and the dark, the gray Force, not gray Jedi, because that's impossible. As I said, the Jedi Order and their approach to the Force, it was a discipline of Force users who only believed in usage of the light side. Dark side use was considered unnatural. But maybe the key is in this other galaxy. And maybe Baylan thinks he can do it. Maybe he thinks he can untap the full potential of the Force, or tap into the full potential of the Force. The audio descriptive track always refers to Baylan and Shin as false Jedi. False Jedi. So gray Jedi, no. Gray Force, possibly. Possibly there's a way to become a gray Force user, to make it happen, to tap into the dark side of the Force, but still consider yourself consumed by the light side.
Yeah.
Maybe
I don't buy it, because I believe that Anakin's lesson was all about how there is no gray, there is no middle road, there is no third way, that it is about the light. And Ahsoka emerges as, like you did this week, as Ahsoka the White. Though I do think that some of that light that we sensed from her at the end of episode 5, I wasn't feeling it at the beginning of episode 6, because she was Ahsoka again. She wasn't, so that was a little disappointing. I wanted to see more of a change, but they've been on the road in the mouth of a purrgil whale for how long? I don't know how happy I would be. But
yes. But the idea of a gray Force. Now listen, before everybody starts crapping all over me, it's not like when I come up with these crazy ideas, I'm not saying this is what I want as a fan. I believe that George Lucas laid out very strict boundaries around the light side and the dark side of the Force, and I think those need to be revered, and those should be the boundaries forever. But it was Star Wars Rebels, a Dave Filoni production, which did, as you mentioned, Jason, bring up the concept of the Bendu, who's fond of calling himself, here, let me give myself some reverb for this one. The one in the middle. Nah, that sucked. The one in the middle.
The one in the middle.
The one in the middle.
I mean, I think it said it on his business card, because he must have said it 20 times. I am the one in the middle, but it does, having that in the middle kind of does establish the concept of a gray Force. That's not light. It's not dark. It's the one in the middle. So,
but I remember him being kind of annoying, like his non-committal attitude. If I remember it right, irritated me at the time. Here's what I think is the reason why he said The Fall of the Jedi, Rise of the Empire, as opposed to Rise of the Sith. Because what he's witnessing now is a rise of a new empire. It's Thrawn. It's the Remnant Empire. It's not a Sith, but it's the Jedi fall, the Empire rises, and it's happening again. Rebellion comes up. Jedi Luke Skywalker destroys the Death Star, tries to breathe life into the Jedi Order, and now they're being met again with the rise of an empire. They may not know it, but they are, whether it be Gideon's attempts or, in this case, Thrawn. So the story isn't really, dependent on a Sith as driving what's going on with the opposition to the rebellion. So it's not really relevant in this sense, but that's my take on it.
I reckon. Yeah. I mean, the Sith, the Empire will return without a Sith Lord at the helm. So, I mean, just the mere fact it has that potential tells you that there's more to the Empire than just the dark side at the wheel.
Right. But the First Order, now that goes back to having dark Jedi at the top. Sith, yeah, I guess we can call them Sith at that point. I struggle with it because of Snoke. I don't even want to call him a Sith. I guess he is. He's a proxy for Palpatine. He's basically a puppet.
It's messy, Jason.
It's messy. Very messy. It's very messy.
You gotta have your deep waders on to get into these waters. Let me just say,
something that's not so messy and I think is a little more straightforward and super cool are the Night Troopers. And I don't think I'm saying anything unique here, but these guys are dead. I think these guys are like Merrick. I think they are essentially spirits inside those, or undead somehow, zombie troopers. This could be sort of like the Legacy of Terror in Clone Wars Season 2 with the Geonosian, zombie Geonosians that we saw. I mean, so Filoni's done it before. And you go with like, okay, so Night Sisters, Night Troopers. Does this imply some witch magic? I don't know.
Well, there's definitely a zombie sort of vibe about them.
Yes.
They're wrapped up in this red duct tape, so it does reveal that resources are they're thin for these guys, or that red duct tape might have some sort of thing that holds in the Nightsister magic that keeps these zombie troopers alive, if they are indeed zombie troopers.
Right.
But it was a great scene. I mean, wow, it sure was fantastic. This whole moment.
They were chanting Thrawn.
What's that?
They were chanting Thrawn.
Yeah, the chant.
Thrawn. We had never heard anything like that. It was primal, it just had this, it just didn't look dignified. I don't want to say dignified, but it was sort of anti-Thrawn. Thrawn is all about refinement and elegance and class, and you got these kind of beastly orc-like almost stormtroopers.
There it is, the orcs.
Thrawn.
That's what I think were kind of an influence here.
Mm-hmm.
I love the whole introduction of Thrawn coming in, riding low in the Chimera Star Destroyers. They park it above that tower. That tower also very Lord of the Rings, and they pull down, that famous loading dock area that was like the first place we ever went to in Star Wars back in 1977. We were there with the Rebel blockade runners that got sucked up into the belly of the beast, and here it is providing a meeting place for Thrawn and these cats from another galaxy and the Night Mothers and everything. And it was, and the Chimera was all patched up with gold plating. And it's like similar to the plating that's making up Morgan's shuttle and the exterior of the bridge section on the Eye of Sion. So I'm wondering, like, what significance is gold to the Dathomiri? It must have some significance. And so when Thrawn, later on in the episode, he wanted the cargo transfer to go down, Morgan said, well, I see in the catacombs it's going to take 3 rotations, aka days, to empty out those catacombs. And so what's in there? Gold. Look at what they're pushing, though. It's more coffin-like in its shape.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This is some sort of casket. Like, I don't know, are these like the ancestors, the Dathomirian witch ancestors?
It could be witches. Yeah, if they're down in the catacombs, it's almost like
the catacombs. That's where they put bodies. That's where they bury people.
And so the Nightsisters, they want to transfer all of their dead to the new galaxy, where it appears most of the Nightsisters and Night Mothers and all of them went. they went there because this whole planet looks like all you see is evidence of a lost civilization.
Right.
You see
It's
the
all
giant
ruins.
statues and ruins. Yeah, there's nothing really left except for bandits and talking hermit crabs. So, I was just wondering. So that must be the Nightsisters' end of the bargain here. They help out
Yes.
Thrawn, and then he transfers all. He
3
empties out the
days
catacombs.
worth of caskets. It's all their ancestors. I think what they want to do is build this big army of the undead.
Mm-hmm.
Thrawn.
Well, why haven't they already done it then? I mean, what are they waiting for? Why take it to another galaxy?
Right. Why do they have to get to another galaxy in order to do it? That's a great question. Because we know that Mother Talzin has the ability to reanimate dead. She sort of did it with Savage Opress, though he wasn't dead. She certainly augmented him. We also saw her do it with Darth Maul, bringing him back from near death. Morok was, I don't know what the hell Morok was. By the way, I just want to say this, I got to say this now because we brought up Morok. If you're on the official Rebel Force Radio group, and if anyone starts a Enoch theory, I know who Enoch is. Enoch is so-and-so. You're going to be kicked off immediately. I don't want any Enoch theories. I don't want anybody speculating who he is or that he's somebody. Enough of this. Enough of these masked characters are always going to be, because it's always leads to nowhere. Disappointment. Enoch is Enoch. Okay? He has a cool mask, though.
You got that?
Yeah.
Enoch
I'm booting
is
you
Enoch.
off.
I was fond of calling those little hermit crab guys Enoch's Ewoks. What do you think of that?
Enoch's Ewoks.
It's probably not going to catch on, but maybe somebody will name their fan group or something. We are Enoch's Ewoks.
We've never seen a helmet like this. Who is Enoch? God, who's Enoch? He's a new character established for this show out of the mind of Dave Filoni, Ezra's clone. Oh, God.
It's a biblical name. Actually, it crosses through all sort of different religions.
Yeah, it's an Old Testament name.
And in Hebrew, the name Enoch means to train, initiate, dedicate, inaugurate. So he's the guy who is in charge of the night troopers, I would assume. And he trains them and shows them what.
Do you think there's anything to some of these origin words? Like, I've heard people talk about Skoll. Skoll is in mythology is a wolf that chases the sun. And so now people are going, they're chasing this. He's chasing the son of Mortis. That's what this is all about. It's possible. As Mark Hamill says, it's possible. But I don't know. I think sometimes they just sound like cool names. I mean, I don't say that as a way to disrespect the writers that they're not putting thought into it, but I don't know that it necessarily foretells future plot just based on, some sort of name origin, but whatever. It's fun. I don't want to pee in anyone's Cheerios.
It is fun. Did you notice when the Chimera flew overhead and you saw the engines in the back, that only the 4 secondary engines were operating? The 3 big ones they looked to be damaged.
Oh.
So that might be just some, something to help plot, armor the story, just to explain why Thrawn wasn't able to get back. But I thought the cool artwork on the belly still being there was awesome. The Chimera symbol. And but I was concerned about those engines, and I'm thinking it might be capable of flight only within the atmosphere or within the system only.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the shop all week, probably 20 to 30 hours man labor plus parts. I hope John has some good insurance, because this is going to cost somebody, my friend. Liberty.
I think that it's going to be safe because they've got the Eye of Sion, and that's going to wrap around that Star Destroyer, and it's going to warp them out of there.
That's what's going to happen for sure.
Well, what did you think of this look that Enoch has? This is one of the most different. We've never seen a trooper anything remotely like this. If you thought that Some of the other troopers just different by color or something. I mean, to give it sort of that human face. I mean, there's some definitely. I've heard people kind of point to samurai masks. I was going down the rabbit hole of Roman centurions and different Roman battle masks throughout the years. So there's definitely prior art to something like this, but we've not seen it in Star Wars. Usually the masks were, almost deliberately non-human. They didn't want it to give the appearance of human, but in the case of Enoch, and he's the only one that looks like that as far as we can tell. So he wants to hold on to this human face in some ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, something tells me he's not your typical stormtrooper. I don't think he came with Thrawn and the guys. I think he's somebody who is in there on behalf of the Nightsisters, just by judging by the gold. Again, I'm looking for these constant things, the gold plating on the Chimera. Where did they get the gold? From the Nightsisters. It's clear that they have some sort of resource that they can tap into and get all of this gold. And so I think that's Nightsister gold or Night Mother gold, or the helmet itself. I mean, the mask, it's kind of like an Egyptian death mask, made of gold.
It's got
like
some of that. Yep. Egyptian, for sure.
And it's a killer aesthetic. I mean, wow, that's some very inspired design right there. From, I don't know if it came from Dave's sketch pad or from one of the brilliant concept artists working for Lucasfilm, but that's a badass look. And come on, let's get that action figure coming. Let's get that action figure so he can join my collection of action figures. Hello.
Oh, look at that. That's a blast from the past. That's the
This
only
is,
at this point. That was the expanded universe line from Power of the Force going back to like 98.
Yeah, late 90s. And he's got that little lizard that's supposed to propel the Force away. So
it's a great figure. It still holds up.
They came out with another one a few years later. And
that's from the Rebels line, isn't it?
No, this is from the comics pack. I looked for the Rebels one in my collection and noticed a wide open gap there. I have no record of ever owning it, so I got the sucker on eBay before the show started. Here's a custom I did. It was a
look at that.
A Tarkin. I must have done this 20 years ago, but it's a Tarkin action figure, and to me he looks more like the Lars Mikkelsen version of the character than those other two action figures do. At least the hair. That hair on Lars is very plastic looking.
I don't want to be a bad guy here, but Lars needs to lay off the pies, the Peridia pies over there.
Yeah, what's up with that? It's like that one guy on Lost who just kept getting larger as the seasons went on, and they were stranded on an island.
The side view is not flattering to Thrawn. He's got a spare tire, man. I mean, I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm just saying that I always picture Thrawn to be very slender, almost skeletal like.
Yes.
And
we are going to the gym right now. But when I saw the night troopers all wrapped up in duct tape, I'm like, yeah, resources are totally thin here, but yet not for Thrawn. The reveal of Thrawn apparently reveals the presence of an all-you-can-eat buffet somewhere on Peridia. It'd be nice if he told the rest of the guys, they have a Friday night fish fry. It's wonderful.
Nikki in the chat, she goes, his belly was so distracting to me. I don't know why. He's trained. He's a trained fighter. What is this? Well, we all let ourselves go. It was like COVID. Think about Thrawn's exile in Peridia as their version of COVID. We all, we grew our hair out, put on a few pounds.
Thank God I brought the tailor along with us because these threads are getting rather tight, predictably.
Oh,
because
man.
You should have seen what I ate yesterday. But listen, people would point out to me. I'd say, hey, Ahsoka, she's like a bummer all the time on this show. What's up with that? And people say, well, it's like 30 years later, people change over time. And I'm like, well, there's core elements of their personality that remain intact. But with Thrawn, all anybody has to say to me is, "Oh, it's 10 years later," and there's no health club on Paradia, and I say, "Oh, I get it. Yeah, you don't have to explain that to me. I lived through that, quite honestly. I understand how while the personality may maintain over the years, the waistline certainly does not." Unless you're somebody like Anthony Daniels, who somehow is able to still fit in the 3PO stuff, which, hats off to him. But most of us regular schlubs, we go through a variety of sizes throughout our lives, and that's just fine. If Thrawn wants to let it all
put
hang
on a
out
few,
like that,
let's let him. Well, let's go to the phones. We've got the phone lines open. Tyler Page is here. We thought maybe he wouldn't be here, but man, this guy's dedication is something else. Appreciate Tyler going through all his troubles today, inconveniences, life getting in the way. But here he is. He's here no matter what. So thanks, Tyler, for being here. Appreciate it. And it looks like we've got some calls coming in. We'll get the number up on the screen here shortly, and we'll jump to those. But I am glad you are here. We could do it without you, but I really wouldn't want to.
It's always good to be here.
All right, man. Thanks. So that's right. The number to call is 708-866-1737. Give us a call. Of course, Patreon members, supporters of us here at RFR do get put to the head of the line. We're going to go ahead and start with a Patreon member and a first-time caller, it looks like. Skylar from Colorado. Hey, Skylar.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
So I had two questions.
Okay.
I had two questions. Just a quick one to start and then a main one at the end. So
Okay.
The quick one, when Huyang and Ahsoka are in hyperspace at the beginning, Huyang mentions the three parts of the history of the galaxy, parts 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
That were taught at the Jedi Temple. And Ahsoka said 1 being the best, of course. Was that just kind of just like a cheeky reference to the Star Wars infighting of which
Absolutely
trilogy is the best?
I thought
am
I
reading
know I did
too
think
into
it
that?
was I did think it was a little homage to debate about which is the best one, and the first one's the original, it's always the best one. Yeah, I thought so. That's how I
amazing
took
you
it.
guys analyze. A buddy of mine today said the same thing to me, that the history of the galaxy, parts 1, 2, and 3. Well, the first one's the best, meaning the one that came out in 1977 per Ahsoka herself. That's the best. But I also thought, well, if they're going to break down the history of the galaxy, part 1, 2, and 3, is the part 1 the Dawn of the Jedi film that James Mangold is supposedly in pre-production on, or was before the strike? I mean, is that what we're talking about here? I like the meta joke there, but
Were these books in canon before this or no? Were these teachings?
the 1, 2, 3, the history of the world, no.
Yeah.
The history of the galaxy, history of the world was Mel Brooks. that's a vastly different history.
That would be different. By the way, we got to mention a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It was cute. It was a little too cute for me.
Oh,
I don't like it being that self-reverential or referential. I don't.
I fanboyed.
I don't like that.
Somebody saying
It was a little heavy-handed.
Live action canon. It's now legit. And then the title card comes up and it says "Far, Far Away." I was floored. I was just a big.
I didn't mind the title of the episode, but
goo on the floor
for him telling Ahsoka a fairy tale is starting out a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I was like, come on.
No, it's awesome.
Come on.
Yeah,
awesome.
I like the subtle reference, but past that, it was a little heavy-handed
Careful.
for me.
Careful, caller. You could be hung up on.
So my main question, how do you guys feel about Star Wars leaning so hard into high fantasy lately? I personally, sorry. Sorry, I'm kind of bad at articulating my thoughts. I
think
love
you're doing great.
I feel like with all the shows and the books and the comics, there's a lot to keep track of, and I've now become the kind of person who needs an answer for everything.
So that's what you mean when you say high fantasy. I need you to define it. Are you talking about how the lore is so thick now?
So yeah, I guess so. And I don't mean it's in a bad way because I love it, but I guess mainly just like just stuff like House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, just getting super just like mythological and just like maybe House of the Dragon wasn't the best reference, but you know what
No,
I mean.
I know what you
more-
mean. Yeah,
like,
I think it's inevitable. I mean,
Star Wars.
first of all, it is a myth. It is a modern myth, and it's hugely influential. And I think that in a lot of ways, it serves not just Star Wars, but whether it be classic stories like Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella and Snow White. I mean, these are fairy tales that serve in a lot of ways the same purpose as the great myths of old, with the exception of we don't really have a religion based around, you know, a Beauty and the Beast, for example. But it's a great allegory. It's a great story.
Right.
And Star Wars is doing the same thing. I do worry, and we've talked about it here on the show many times, that it could get trapped under the weight of its own canon. I think that does happen from time to time. I think they've done a really great job with respect to animation and the live action. I think they've avoided it. As far as it getting heady, you know, that's full. I mean, look, that's Filoni. Filoni's a Lord of the Rings guy. He loves that. He's into, he likes Harry Potter. And Harry Potter gets pretty thick too. I would say it's one of the tightest anthologies or story anthologies that I've ever heard told. It's amazing how many different things pay off throughout Harry Potter, and all of it seems very well conceived at the very beginning. It doesn't seem contrived to me, but yeah, sure. I think that's definitely a concern. I would say that this series, probably more than any other, has some of my casual, we were joking, calling them muggles, casual friends, asking me more questions than anything else that I've seen. Because Mandalorian was kind of like blank slate. Once they knew it took place after Return of the Jedi, they're like, okay, I'm in. I get it.
Yeah, there's stuff about the backstory that
think
people
that this is like an
they ask me,
indication-
you know, your Muggle types or whatever. But they ask me these questions. I'm like, you know, I've paid the full price of admission to this stuff. I've seen every animated series episode multiple times. I've watched every live action thing, and I've read a ton of books. But the mystery box storytelling that's going on in Ahsoka is surprising even me, where I'm asking the same questions as a lot of people who don't keep up on this stuff. And that's at times frustrating for me. Because
we don't have the answers.
Linear story. You know, I don't mind the story just like starting off kind of in the middle of a grander story, like George did with the original trilogy. But he kept the original trilogy story as a fairly linear tale outside of the reveal that Darth Vader was Luke's father. That was a twist. But now it seems like a show like Ahsoka is populated with things like where that's the priority is the twist. The reveal is the priority over the story itself. And that bothers me. And I don't know if it has anything to do necessarily with the idea of a grand fantasy mythology being applied to Star Wars, because it's always been there. And I've always found that stuff incredibly compelling, but I don't want the storytelling of the human struggle and human relationships and relatability for me as an audience member to get trampled upon in the sake of wild fantasy mythology elements. It needs to remain its core. The core story of the original Star Wars prequels and the original trilogy was a story about the Skywalker family, as we know, and redeeming a father and the struggles a son has to go through as a result of the sins of the father and all that stuff, inheritance, everything. What's at the core of the Ahsoka story? I thought it would be Ahsoka, and as it turns out, there's only been really one episode this season about Ahsoka, and that was the past episode. I thought we'd get more of that stuff. She was only in this episode for 4 minutes at the very beginning,
right.
And it was largely inconsequential. This series is more Star Wars Rebels Season 5 than it is Ahsoka. Let's face it.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
Boy, I just realized that when you said the runtime, you talked about the runtime. I did not give the tail of the tape. So the tail of the tape
You can tail us the tape, but I actually thought it was refreshing to just kind of dive right into the swimming pool, after staring at the water all day. I needed to jump in, so I'm glad we did. But tail it to tape us, Jason.
Part 6, Far, Far Away, directed by Jennifer Getzinger, who has a lot of TV credits to her name, including shows like Mad Men, Westworld, Candy. Of course, written by Dave Filoni. Original air date September 19th, 2023, and a runtime of 42 minutes, a little bit shorter than last week's big, epic 50-plus minute episode with Anakin. We've got some super chats here. Let's start with Brendan. Brendan says, what's going on here? Oh, look, we got to shrink this down. Look at that. I like the new look here. Brendan says, love the after show as always. Baylan's quest. Will it have impacts on what we see in the sequel trilogy, or is it likely self-contained within the Filoni verse? Okay. Will any of this actually impact what we see in the sequel trilogy? Sort of like what we speculated throughout Mandalorian, that we were getting shades and ripples of things that would show up in the sequel trilogy. Funny you mentioned that, Brendan, because I was asking myself that same question today as I was rewatching the episode. Is any of this, because when you talk about what is Baylan sensing, what is he feeling there in Paradia, I thought, okay, let's go through the suspects here. Is it Mortis? Is it Palpatine? Is it someone connected to Palpatine? Is that what he could be feeling? We know all these roads are eventually going to have to lead to Palpatine. So whether you like it or not, it's got to get there at some point. We know he comes back episode 9. He's animating the clones that are developed through the technology that we saw, or part of the technology that we saw with Mandalorian. So it's all happening. So I think this is going to be a diversion. I think that this is building up to something that is a major moment in between the trilogies, in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. It's going to stand on its own. I don't think it's going to be the Yuzon Vong. But whatever Skoll is after, I think is probably going to be the big bad of this particular chapter in the saga. I'm not convinced yet that Thrawn is the big bad.
I think Thrawn is the big bad. I don't think they're going to introduce another antagonist after this massive buildup that's been going on since season 2 of The Mandalorian. I mean, you could even say since the end of Star Wars Rebels. But so I don't think it's necessarily an individual. When he says power, I think there's something to tap into. I mean, it could be Ezra. It could be this Nightsister magic stuff that's going on there. It could be something totally different. But I don't think it's going to be a group or an individual or anything. I think all of the players are on the field right now. As far as, does this stuff have to set up the sequel trilogy? Do we need that thing in the back of our head for every Star Wars show we watch between now and the end of time? I don't think so. I think that
not between now and the end of time, but if it takes place prior to the sequel trilogy.
Well, if it's specifically going to do, like, how about a movie called like Rise of the First Order or something, just something
that of course would.
Every single blank, take your mulligan, Lucasfilm, take your freaking mulligan. Maybe that's what they're going to try to do with this Rey movie. I don't freaking know, but I would like to see something more in its place on the timeline, something that happens prior to the events of the sequel trilogy that answer all of those, that fill all of those gaping plot holes that are there. And you can write me all you want and tell me how beautifully shot The Last Jedi is, but that doesn't make it a great story. The hell it does. Nor does it make it a solid addition to the Star Wars mythology. So obviously the sequel trilogy needs help. It needs some post-op care like you wouldn't believe. And
it's going to be hard to do without the legacy characters, I'll tell you that.
Well, the technology with the deep fakes.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. And I'm there for it.
You could have them still present. I mean, for crying out loud.
Right.
So, but I don't think that's the purpose the Ahsoka series is serving at all, is to lay down some foundation for the sequel trilogy story that doesn't really happen. They got like 30 years between the two trilogies. That's a huge playing field. I don't think
it's a lot of time. Look what happens just in the span of the 3 years of the Clone Wars. Look what happens in the span of the time between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. All those stories that took place in books and comics, and likewise between Empire and Jedi. So, yeah, I get it. But at some point, it's all got to lead to what we see in the sequel trilogy. Marty from Georgia, you're next. Patreon member. Hey, Marty.
Hey, chat, fellas.
Chat, buddy.
Definitely enjoyed the episode. It was cool to see Thrawn, and all I could think of when that Star Destroyer just slowly approached, I was like, that's got to be the Prius of Star Destroyers, because you couldn't hear that thing coming.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It just kind of sneaks up on you.
No,
my neighbors have a Prius.
Oh, yeah.
But they sneak in and out all the time.
Yeah,
right?
I thought that was cool to see them. A theory I had, based on what you guys are talking about, what was in the cargo, is we know that there on Coruscant is some big meeting to discuss if Heir can continue her command or something. My far out there theory is they're going to have a lot of important New Republic people there, and that one senator, the kind of a jerk one,
Ziono,
is going to set it up so that, yeah, my theory is, and it's something that's formulating as the after show went on, so if it's got holes in it, probably, but what if Thrawn uses that opportunity to, with all the New Republic High Command there, to try and launch an attack using a bunch of Nightsister to unleash holy hell on Coruscant?
That's a cool
just a theory
idea.
I had. I don't know if it's out there or not, but
oh yeah, why not take them all out when they're all assembled? They're determining Hera's fate, though I don't know how public that is. As far as Thrawn, I don't know how he would know that at this point. Like, oh, this is the most
true, unless the senator was feeding him information somehow, or I don't know.
Like I do think that Senator Ziono is dirty. I think he's dirty, but man, the cost it takes to get a phone call out to Thrawn is, I think, beyond Ziono. But I do think that he's dirty. Yeah. I think that he's going to be a pawn in this at some point. But it's going to be very interesting to see how all these people react when he's back, and I hope that we get to see more of that Shadow Council and some of the other remnant warlords and remnant troopers and their reaction to everything. So, yeah.
Thrawn just figured it out, though, as far as the gathering of all these important New Republic people. Thrawn would just figure that out. Ahsoka Tano couldn't have made it this far without the assistance of General Hera Syndulla, which would clearly raise the ire of the New Republic. And because of New Republic policy, the tribunal would have to take place exactly 3 weeks after she assisted Ahsoka Tano, which would be tomorrow. And we know that Mon Mothma and all the top brass of the New Republic will be there. So we will then take Enoch's Ewoks, and they will.
No, it's not working. Stop with the Enoch's Ewoks. It's not. No,
it's not catching on.
It's not catching on.
Oh God, are the Ewoks inside? Is the Ewoks a cargo?
They have.
Marty, you could probably fit 3 to a case at that size. Man.
Just enjoyed the episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. And I'm excited to see what happens next. And cool to see Thrawn. And it was noticeable to me that he had a little bit of a gut, which I was kind of about like.
Yeah, really? I hate to even bring it up because, none of us as young as we used to, but they kept showing him from the side. When they showed him from the front, it was fine. He was wearing white. Even though white's not always the most slimming color, it's like, but it is his thing. It's his thing. Yeah. But man, when they show him from the side, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's a wardrobe
He's a lot less intimidating.
Yeah, he sure is. Can't they see? They can bring dead actors from the grave, but they can't slim Thrawn's gut down a little bit? Jeez.
Give Lars a CGI girdle for crying out loud.
I mean, Shatner wore a real girdle. I mean, we're not even asking that. Hey, Marty, thanks for the call, buddy, and thanks for the support on Patreon.
Maybe it's a wardrobe fail when he like kind of folds that thing over. It bunches up on him or something.
Maybe.
Did you notice how Anakin's leather Jedi outer robe was sort of puffing up on him when he was swinging that saber around?
I did know this, and I got to put it on me. But a buddy of mine at the day job, he goes, what was with that shimmy that Anakin did? I'm like, what shimmy? He's like, yeah, he's coming towards Ahsoka, and he kind of does one of these. Did you notice that, where he kind of adjusts his tabards or whatever it is on his Jedi robes? He's like, oh, it was like a shimmy, like he was doing a little dance.
Shimmy.
Yeah.
A little shimmy.
Classic Donut says, how you doing, you old pirates? Did your wallets feel super heavy when you saw all those zombie troopers? Boy, did they ever. Man, I said to our Jedi Council, I said, I bet the guys at Hasbro are just so excited because these night troopers are just going to be endless supply of variants and, a little bit more dirty here, a little more dirty there. This one's got gold on the left side. This one's got gold on the right side. They're going to be loving it. And then when we find out that there's zombies inside, we're going to have like ones with the helmets coming off. And yeah, I think this is Death Troopers in live action. Thrawn and the others in one place. Talk about figure army building. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Classic Donut. That was very kind of you. Jeff says, episode 6 proves that the Empire really does have a stick up its Star Destroyer butt. I guess so.
I wonder what he means by that. I mean, what is it? Stick up the Star Destroyer butt. I get it. I think it's the way that they sort of hovered over. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Jeff.
This is
Jeff.
the big stick up its butt right here.
Yeah. Swank will be talking all about it on his OnlyFans page after the show.
You know it. Blake says, love you guys. Did the Howlers remind you of the boar wolves from the Ewok movies? I don't have, those aren't committed to memory for me.
Yeah.
I just don't have the recall. I love the Howler, though. I thought it was cool. He reminds me so much of my dog. He reminds me of Rebel. In fact, I started going around telling Rebel, Tota.
Yeah, I'm sure Rebel responded. Now, it was a Howler. That's not the name of the actual beast itself. I'm going to call him Howler. He's just going to be Howler to me.
Well, the Noti that Sabine friends in the subtitles is called Little Noti.
Well, he's a Little Noti. Yeah. They're all Little Noti, though.
Yeah.
That's not like his specific name.
We're all Little
I
Noti
that.
these
I'm
days.
like, that's weird. Little Noti. What the hell?
Yeah.
But because there were several of them, and they're all Noti, and they speak the Noti language, even the bandits.
Yeah.
So it's, nobody could really claim ownership of Noti, but they sure try to in their little hermit crab trailer park there on
I love the personality that they gave to this Howler. I love I thought that the scene between him and Sabine after he abandoned her and came back was really sweet. I liked it. I liked it.
He didn't establish though that it didn't seem like he really cared one way or another for Sabine up till that point. Then all of a sudden he really wanted to, like, she won his loyalty somehow. And that part to me seemed like it kind of happened like there's
too much too fast.
Maybe, I just thought if you're going to have a scene like that, then maybe show Sabine earning his trust.
Yeah, she didn't do anything for him to wear.
Right.
But
Drew
it was fine.
It was fine.
It was, yeah. Drew says, my birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Drew. It was fun to have new Star Wars to watch. My presents were seeing Thrawn and Ezra in live action. All right. Thanks for the super chat, buddy. And like I said, happy birthday. Nikki, Great to see you, Nikki. She says, hey, guys, help me like this episode more, please. LOL. I just couldn't get past Thick Thrawn.
Thick Thrawn.
Thick Thrawn. And how annoying Sabine is, LOL. Looked like a Dune fan film to me. Love you both. Wow.
Oh, that's pretty harsh.
That is harsh.
That's pretty harsh. Why don't you just concentrate on that Star Destroyer a little bit harder and think about, how about that awesome fight sequence where Sabine is using Mandalorian martial arts, and that only goes so far with the bandits, and then she sparks up that green saber and starts a swing. And I mean, I thought that was pretty damn exciting. That I loved all the action sequences as they've unfolded throughout this entire series. I've never seen an action sequence in Ahsoka that made me look at it like the way I looked at the mod street chase from Book of Boba Fett, which seemed to be clunky and
slow,
goofy, or like almost sitcom-y. This stuff, it takes itself seriously.
It really
this
does.
series takes itself seriously when it comes to combat sequences, whether it be lightsaber duel, whether it be shootouts, whether it be hand-to-hand combat. This is a series that takes it seriously. So hats off to the fight coordinators and stunt guys and gals who are providing all of the
I've
incredible
heard that,
moments.
is it true? Is Natasha Bordizzo, was she a martial artist in her own right? Sabine actress?
You know, that's a good question. I don't think I've heard anything like that.
I thought I
But
heard
she
someone in the
certainly
Jedi
has
Council
displayed
make that comment.
I mean, she handles the physicality in the scenes really well. You never know when they're cutting back and forth from a stunt actor. But I mean, usually you need a good actor in there selling the tension of the moment and everything. And she does that. And I think Sabine, I've really grown to like Sabine as a character throughout this show. And like I heard a lot of my prequel hating pals say during the run of the Clone Wars, they would say the Clone Wars enhanced the prequels for me. This series is enhancing Star Wars Rebels for me in a profound way, I gotta say.
All right, let's check in with John from New York, also a Patreon supporter. Hey, John, you're on with Rebel Force Radio. Hello.
Johnny.
Chut, guys.
Chut,
Very happy to be here. Can you guys hear me okay?
We sure can. Loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Party time. Cool. Yeah, no, dude, I'm loving Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my me time. Ahsoka on Tuesday, I get to watch some baseball on the side, keep up with my team, and then do the same thing all over again on Wednesday with you guys.
Life is good, man. Life
is having
good.
A good time. Life. Chut to that. I wanted to say that I actually liked the dialogue between Hu Yang and Ahsoka, and I know that some people are saying, oh, it's a little too hokey and on the nose, but I love the metatextual commentary. With the because I caught it too. Another caller said that they noticed that they were talking about History of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3, but everybody knows that was the best. And I was like, oh, dude, that was some of the best metatextual commentary I've ever heard. And then the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away line that Hu Yang said, I'm with Jimmy Mac. It really struck me like lightning. Yeah. And I melted.
It was terrible.
And one last thing, I was just going to say that I really love Horse Dog. I know everybody's calling him Howler, but he's going to be Horse Dog to me. I love Horse Dog.
Horse Dog. I was calling him Rat Dog at first. It was like a big rat.
I think the reason why he came back was just probably because he knew that I think it's really just basically simple that wolves and dogs are pack animals. They're social creatures. I've been working with dogs for 12 years, and I can tell you they are very social creatures, and they will. If they're going to be out and about and like if it's a wasteland, I think that Horse Dog knew that, if he was going to be alone, he wasn't going to survive. So he needed a pack, and it's just simple nature, and I think that's why I think that's why Sabine did not need to earn his trust. I think that they just both needed each other, and they both realized
I accept
on a very primal.
That's it. You
On a
nailed
very
it.
primal and natural level.
Yes.
Primal and natural. That's what we specialize in.
And
on
Horse
Rebel
Dog
Force
is such a
Radio.
great name. It's up there with Hog Squaddle. It's forever canonized here at Rebel
Horse
Force
Dog.
Radio. These are horse dogs.
Horse Dog.
I love it.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank you,
for
guys.
calling,
Have
man.
a great night.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. We got you guys are so generous. You and your super chats. Mad About Digital Art says, do you guys think that Dave was saying something with all the kintsugi? It was even on the Chimera, or was it just cool art direction? Well, it would help if I knew what kintsugi was. Mad About Digital Art, considering that you're a digital artist, you probably know. I do not.
I can provide. The best example you see of it in Star Wars is Kylo Ren's repaired helmet in The Rise of Skywalker. It's a particular brand of artwork where they put together broken pottery. And that's
okay.
as much
I've seen
as I
examples
know.
of this before. Yes.
That's like all I know about it, just from Rise of Skywalker. It was being talked about a lot when that monkey engineer put together Kylo's helmet. And they said, "Oh, it's kintsugi." Thank you. What? I had to look it up, And
Well,
so
that's
that's
what,
what I
they're doing
think he means
with the troopers' armor, with the red bands, the red tape, whatever it is. Those witches and their red tape. It's like kintsugi.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess was that.
I think so.
It just looked
It
like
looks
duct
the
tape
armor
to
was
me.
stitched together.
Yeah.
Four Midwest guys says Enoch looks like Destro from G.I. Joe Destro Trooper. Yeah, I thought so too when he moved to the gold helmet, the Iron Grenadiers. Yes, I like
And
that.
the giant gladiator that Russell Crowe faces, Maximus faces down in the film Gladiator.
Yes,
There's a scene where he takes on this like giant guy, and he's got similar mask.
Oh, Tanya is backing this up. Thank you, Tanya. Wabi Sabi Troopers were a nice homage to Japanese culture, restoring stormtroopers to the art of kintsugi, repairing pottery with precious metal. Very cool. Thank you for that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I gotta zoom in or look closer because, like I said, all I saw was the duct tape. I must be missing something.
I don't think you're missing it. I think you're just saying duct tape, and other people are saying, "Oh no, it's precious metals or precious something precious to the Nightsisters." Thing is, they're symbolically as their magic. Slim
Magic
Lewis,
with a K. Let's be specific.
MAGICK. What was with that typo?
And sometimes they even say magics. They've been spelling it that way in regards to the Nightsisters since.
Have they really?
Yeah, since Clone Wars era. And I think
Wow.
it goes back to some sort of, I don't know, witch tales from the past.
Yeah.
Spelled magic with a K. I'm going to start doing that all the time now. See if people correct me. I know they will.
Slim Lewis says, isn't it slightly ridiculous how quickly Sabine found Ezra? Felt like phone it in writing. I'm overall enjoying the series. Yeah, man, I'm with you. There was so much great about this episode, but the one thing that I didn't love was how quickly they found him. Not that I wanted them to drag. I don't think they even needed to drag it out beyond this episode, really. But it just was like, hey, what took you so long? I'm just hanging out here. I don't know. It just felt a little rushed, considering, like Max said, all the buildup and getting there. And then once you get to this planet, what? He's a 25-minute walk away?
It's and the Empire gives you what you need to find him, and you really just have to kill a few bandits along the way before you meet the friendly crab creatures who are going to take you right to their trailer park. And you see Ezra there. He's just hanging out. And he's acting like he saw you last weekend. And it's just, there's something, listen, do you open the door to any possibility that might not actually be Ezra? That this might be a trick that's getting played on Sabine? It's some sort of Nightsister magic with a K that's in play here, and Thrawn knows this, and I just don't see what the point of the whole charade would be for.
Yeah, no, I think
I just don't. I don't find any logical conclusion for why he would do that. But there was almost a sense of skepticism about seeing Ezra,
right?
Because it all
you were
happened
waiting for
so
the other
easy.
shoe to drop. You were waiting, like it can't be this easy. So it put me on edge a little bit, like, oh, but these shows have not really done much twisting when you think about it.
Just mystery box. Just mystery box storytelling.
Yeah.
It leaves you at the end of the episode asking a bunch of questions that have been artificially planted in your head because of the restriction that the storytellers are putting on themselves, because they don't want to reveal information, because everything has to be a Darth Vader, I am your father moment. And I think that's a little misguided.
Yeah.
And I think if J.J. Abrams made any impact on Star Wars, this is it. The mystery box storytelling. It's a crappy gimmick. And I mean, I don't mind twists in stories, but it seems like everything is there to support the mystery box reveals and the twists, as opposed to focusing on telling us a compelling story.
But there aren't
and giving
twists.
us reasons to get behind these characters. We can't get behind them because there's so much mystery about all of them. Fill in the blank storytelling.
It does
Sucks.
get in the way. You're right, in the sense that it gets in the way of relating and caring about them, because there's too much unknown. And of course, our inbox will be full of examples from the original trilogy where it was all unknown.
Oh, well,
that's
come
that's
the
what
whole
they
thing
do.
was being established then. It's like it had to emerge.
It had to start
The story
somewhere, right?
had
It had to start
emerge.
somewhere.
Now the foundation's been laid, and we're 45, 46 years later. We got to come up with something better than gimmicky storytelling.
Salby Crumb says, obviously this arc will carry on for multiple seasons and shows, but I'm worried that very little will be tied up in the next 2 episodes. Do you think any story parts get closed? # Gladiator Troopers rule. That's kind of what we're talking about here, Sal, is this the way that this show has paced up to this point. Certainly they're going to have to wrap it up faster than she found Ezra, because we only have 2 episodes to go. Even if they're longer episodes, we could be looking at most another hour and a half, a little bit more than that, hour 40. We'll see. But yeah, I think it is going to have to go very quick. Very quick.
Well, if we knew we were getting a second season, that would be a little more tolerable, like with the Andor situation. We knew that the season 1 would wind down and we would only get half the story.
That was nice knowing that in advance, wasn't it? It kind of chilled me out.
Yeah. Because you know what you're in for.
Yeah.
With this, it's like you're not even sure if there's going to be a second season. Is this going to spin off into the films?
Nothing's had a second season other than Mandalorian.
Stuff?
Nothing
What's
has.
that?
Well, Bad Batch. But no, none of the live action shows have had a second season.
Well, Mandalorian, sure.
I said other than Mandalorian.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're dropping out on me there a little bit.
Yeah,
but
that's it.
Yeah, I guess
That's
you're
me.
right. I mean, it's all been miniseries outside of Mando and Andor. And yeah, so I think there's more in the tank for this as a series. But with the uncertainty about the industry, with the 2 strikes that are going on right now, we're not going to find out for a while. So this could end with a lot of loose threads, and we'll just be wondering, well, what's going to come next? I mean, is this going to lead into a season 2? Are we going to have to wait till 2027 or whatever for a film?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're
I'm
wondering
banking
the
on
same
a second
thing.
season myself.
You think a second season before the
Yeah.
film? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And they might have to fast track it because of the strike. Because of the strikes, they might have to move it quick.
I hope Filoni has a game plan for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Going into this thing, if it does indeed have a lot of loose ends at the end of season 1. I'm hoping for something a little more self-contained, but as they say, there's only 2 episodes left. And it feels like the plane has just got off the ground. It feels like the story is just slowly been kicking in, and now
in a lot of ways. Yeah.
the premise is there, and there's substance behind it, and there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, sure is. Maybe Blake can talk us down here. Hey, Blake, it's time. Whoop, that's not Blake's take.
Hey,
it's time.
Chut,
Buddy. It's time for your take. How are you?
I'm doing good. I thought this episode was like, it wasn't as good as the last episode with Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like the biggest Anakin and Vader fan.
I've seen pics of your bedroom. I know you're a bit of a dark sider over there, Blake. What's going on?
I like the dark side. I've always been a fan of the dark side. Ever since my dad first showed me Star Wars, whenever I was really young, we tried to start from the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
But then I stopped him in the middle of it, and I said, I want to watch the one with the black guy. I was talking about Darth Vader.
He's like, he is. It's Mace Windu. He shows up here in a few more minutes. Wait. You were talking about Darth Vader. All right. You wanted to see Darth Vader. So what did you watch? Episode 4 then? Or Revenge of the Sith?
Started on episode 4, 5, and 6, and then I think we went to 3 and then 1, 2. Or something like that.
Oh, wow. Like the machete edit or whatever that is. Okay. Well, what do you think? We got 2 episodes left. A lot of cards are on the table. What's next?
So I think this whole Baylan, how he's on this to stop the cycle. And he's always talking about he just wants to stop it completely. He don't want this to go on more and more. He just wants to end it completely. And in it, it's like he's talking about the rise and the fall of the Jedi, and they rise back up, and Empire comes, and then the Empire falls, and it's just a whole cycle that goes over and over. What if while he's on that planet, the thing that's calling to him is like a Jedi temple? And then in the Jedi temple could be like the world between worlds, and he wants to go back from like a long time ago just to stop old Force wielders, to get it just this way. There's no cycle, no nothing, just to stop it all. And then and I don't know, I'm pretty sure you guys have watched the Freemakers, right?
A little bit, not a lot, but man, if you're going to throw down some Freemakers canon, let's hear it.
So in the whole plot of the Freemakers,
yes,
is the whole Kyber saber. They're going after the Kyber crystals to build the Kyber saber, since the entire saber is built of Kyber crystals. What if he goes back to that time, and that actually like fully becomes canon, and we see him with the Kyber saber? But then, like, what if?
Wait a minute, I'm confused about the Kyber saber. Aren't they all Kyber sabers?
No, this one's built out of Lego.
Yeah, but this one's like fully built.
Oh, so the whole thing is a crystal, not just a crystal powering the emitter.
Yeah, so besides like the handle, the rest of it's all Kyber crystals. It's because it can destroy complete planets by if you just like do a little swing with it. The power off of it flies, and it will just completely destroy planets in half. It'll blow up planets. It'll destroy anything in its path.
Are they doing this on the Lego Freemaker show? Are they blowing up planets and stuff? That's what's going on over there? I need to check in with this show.
Whenever they have the flashback.
Oh, flashback. Oh, interesting. I stopped watching that show when Dengar jumped out of his ship and he unwrapped the bandages on his head and used it as a parachute. And I'm like, I'm out. Come on.
Peace out.
But I'm glad you like it, Blake, and because you're bringing some knowledge to us that us old farts don't know or understand from the Lego specials. So I appreciate you doing that, my buddy. You got anything else you want to throw at us?
Yeah, I have 2 more things I want to talk about. So you guys were talking about how whenever they're loading the cargo into the ship, how it could be like witches. But what if it's like kyber crystals, not for the kyber saber, but for Emperor Palpatine's return?
Yes.
Like this whole thing leads up to Palpatine's return. What if they're there and they find kyber crystals, and that's why they have so many cargoes, because they're helping? Is because they don't know that yet, that Palpatine is for Palpatine's return, but they're just grabbing it all because they want the power. They want to be able
What
to
role
wield it.
do a lot of kyber crystals play in Palpatine's return? I thought maybe Thrawn would just want to build a super weapon out of it.
Well, that could be like what Thrawn has planned, but Palpatine has more planned for it. Like maybe the power. He has like billions and billions of Star Destroyers. That could be
the Final
maybe
Order
it.
fleet. The Final Order
Yeah.
fleet could be. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting.
Maybe they're all powered by kyber crystals.
That's
those-
interesting,
Those
buddy.
planet-destroying cannons on those.
Yeah,
Star
and his
Destroyers.
entire army,
Right.
like of the Sith troopers.
Right.
What if that is all the witch powers, the dark magic, and it's all reanimated?
Yeah, because the question is where did they come from? How do you find so many people, and what have they been doing until that big moment where they all rise up and rise out of the? That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's
for
interesting.
Palpatine's entire fleet.
Yeah, cool. Maybe they don't have to be kyber crystals, Blake. Maybe they just have to be bodies that get reanimated and become part of the Final Order. I don't know, but you've given a lot of great thoughts, buddy. We'll definitely hear from you next week, I am sure. Let's see, we've got Chris from Las Vegas. You're up next here on RFR. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, chut, gentlemen. How are you doing
Chut.
tonight?
All right.
I thank you very much for taking my call. I
Chris,
have a
you're
theory,
starting
and
to.
it actually
You sound a little bit like Grand Admiral Thrawn yourself there. With is that what you're throwing down on us?
Oh man, if you knew me, you would laugh at that thought. No,
Oh,
I'm
why?
not
Okay.
Admiral Thrawn at all. I'd be more like Salacious Crumb.
Oh, okay. All right.
Admiral
Yeah, because
Thrawn.
you
Sorry.
started out really.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to keep himself in check,
I see.
because he
yeah,
knows
well,
he's
you
just
know.
going to pop off and go nuts and just
Wild man. All right.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to be chill,
Okay.
I don't want to blow everyone's eardrums out. But I have been listening to you guys for a while. In fact, I started pretty much. I joined Patreon and started listening from the very beginning, and I've been working my way through.
Oh boy.
And mostly because I really like all the background stuff, all the interviews and all that stuff. And
great.
What you guys have done is a great service. So thank you very much, because it's absolutely incredible to be able to go through all those interviews and get the behind the scenes stories and different takes. Absolutely incredible. I just wanted to say that real quick before I got into my spiel.
Thank you.
I want to kiss your rear end, I guess, before I lay this down. So you don't beat me up too much in my crap theory. And mind you, I come from a place of ignorance. I didn't do the Clone Wars. I'm an original OT. The first movie I saw in the theater was the first movie, Star Wars. Very first thing I saw in the theater. So I've been ruined for anything else my whole life. So I come from a little bit of ignorance on what I'm about to say about the Nightsisters. So you guys might be able to say you're dumb. It's out. Yeah, that's cool. But here we go. So Yang is how old is he? 10,000 years old?
Like 20,000 years old.
20,000, jeez.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Here's my theory. Nightsisters come in from the other galaxy, right? They roll into ours. Either they bring the Force with them, or when they get here, they either train or meet Jedi. They come into conflict of some sort, or they're pals. Who knows? Over time, they become wary of each other. Off you go. Fast forward. They can resurrect, all this other stuff. Morgan Elsbeth decides she's going to go and, she starts hearing voices in her head. Oh, my goodness, someone's talking to me. And so she decides, crazy enough, to trust them. right? Because she smokes something funny, I guess. And she decides the voices in her head are going to tell her to go and build a giant thing and come on out and see everyone. Thrawn's here. I don't think it's two-way because they don't ever say she talks to them, does it? Isn't it always they talk to her? They even say, you heard us in your dreams.
Right.
Ooh, well done. All right. So yeah, I'm thinking she's probably like, holy crap, they're really here when she lands. Right. Anyway, so she goes up and the whole thing, those are bodies of the Nightsisters. The deal here is they bring the bodies back. Hu Yang knows about the Nightsisters' threat because he was there originally. He can tell Ahsoka about it. Ahsoka knows about it and goes, holy crap, we've got to stop Thrawn. Not Thrawn, the things he's carrying. And so everyone's like, we got to stop Thrawn. We got to stop Thrawn. It's the actual real threat are those Nightsisters. I think they bring them back and they eventually become what we see in the Sith Temple. I think they are trying to resurrect all their people. Somehow Palpatine's hot for resurrection, right? Whoever the alchemist is that's trying to bring him back to life. They team up with the Nightsisters. They say, hey, come on over here. We've got the Force over here. Maybe they've trained it out of their galaxy. Maybe there's no living people. Maybe they're the only ones, and that's why the Force is weak there, so they got to leave or something along those lines. So they can't resurrect their people any longer. We have all these living people, so they drag them out over here where the living Force is, and they can resurrect all their people. But the cost for that is that they have to pledge allegiance to Palpatine and the Sith, and they become the Sith that we see at the end of Rise of Skywalker, or some portion of them, because there's 3 days worth of bodies, and that looks about 3 days worth of bodies in those bleachers at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Holy cow, that took a long time for me to spit out.
That was great.
I'm
No,
really
that
sorry
was
about
great,
that.
man. No, that was great stuff you laid on us. Thank you. And thanks for the kind words. Thanks for being a Patreon. It was
I
all
wasn't
really
listening.
good stuff.
Can you repeat that? What did he say? No, I think he's on to something. Again,
I
that's two
could, but
calls
actually
in a
I
row.
sent
who
an
are-
email.
Oh, you put it in an email too?
I did, man, and I left a voicemail, but I was like, God, those things, I didn't write well. I sounded like an idiot on the voicemail. I was like, crap, I guess I'll just try to call in.
It was great.
Well,
glad you did. Glad
so-
you did.
Is that even feasible
Of course it is.
based on the
of course
history
it
of the
is.
Nightsisters and canon?
I think so.
I don't see anything that would restrict a concept like that from actually becoming a story point in Star Wars. I mean, I think we've seen crazier crap than that before, but it does explain, where does
Well, I'm just
Palpatine get all of these people who are living in isolation? They're worshiping the dark side and completely and totally devoted to bringing his empire back.
Right.
Yeah.
And I heard you guys had said something about he was a clone, but that's not in the movie, right? Like that's some book or something, correct? That's not actually,
Who are you
like,
talking about?
canon.
He? Palpatine?
That he's Palpatine.
Yeah,
The
Palpatine
end
is
of
a clone.
Palpatine.
What we see, well,
No.
Palpatine in Return of the Jedi is not a clone. The Palpatine that we are in the
No,
original
the
trilogy,
old
the
one.
prequels, but by the time we get to Ep
No,
9,
the
when he
sequel-
shows up,
sequel Pal.
sequel Palpatine is a clone.
It's a clone, but I mean, it's the spirit of Palpatine inhabiting the clone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still doesn't mean he doesn't need
Nightsisters are
resurrection.
weird. That could certainly explain that.
Yeah.
What's
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate the call very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great night, guys. I'll
Thank
listen.
you. You too.
Thank you, man.
You too.
He's probably exhausted after that call. I
am. No, it was a
you know,
great call.
He did. He started off very, hello, Jason and James. I would like to discuss
He was
an
so
open
proper.
with you. And then it's like the floodgates open. Yeah, that's great.
It was so proper. All right. Well, before we sign off here, we do want to try to get to a few more of these super chats. Boy, 4 Midwest guys, very, very, very kind, supporting us all night long. Is Baylan going after something to destroy the Force itself or control it? My vote is control it, not destroy it. Control it. He wants the power, and I think he is. I think he's a wielder of the Force. He's a believer in the Force. Jeremy Lanning says that felt like Star Wars, hard sci-fi Star Wars. Wow, the music was amazing as well. What Star Wars feeling did that give you? I was transported fully. Definitely felt like Star Wars. I love the new stuff. I love the creatures. Mac was saying earlier that it felt very much like an episode of Rebels. I thought it did. It felt like something we'd have seen in Rebels, even something we'd have seen in Clone Wars. Filoni was always giving us new planets with new inhabitants, new aliens. Everything from the Big Bendu to the little Meeber Gascon. I mean, all sizes, shapes. So yeah, it definitely felt like Filoni Star Wars. That's for sure. Again, for Midwest guys saying, I want to get stuck in this new galaxy at the end of the series. New galaxy, new aliens, new creatures, maybe a new way on how the Force works. Okay. It's a little too far away from the galaxy that I tune in for every week, but I know what you're saying. But, I don't think you have to leave that galaxy to get new stuff.
It didn't seem like some big, exotic, different type of life, I mean, the planet looked like something it was your typical Star Wars planet, I would say, sparsely populated with remnants of an ancient civilization there. And a lot of just vast badlands, difficult terrain to cross because of what makes it up and who inhabits it. And so, I mean, it felt very much at home in the Star Wars universe. We all know, it's like the song remains the same wherever you go. It's all pretty much the same old song and dance. I just quoted 2 classic rock, hard rock bands right there. And if you can let me know, I will send you a no prize if you can identify those 2 bands. But I need a reason to stay in this galaxy. Just to be in a different place, doesn't add up to me.
I don't
what
think we're
does
out of
this
stories.
galaxy provide that the other one doesn't? That's yet to be defined.
And we're not out of stories in the galaxy that we know and love.
No, certainly not.
Paul Kurtz says, signs Shin might be a little slow. Nightsister's in front of Shin. Looks to Baylan. Those are witches. Yeah, no. Then staring at the bandits, turns to Baylan. Those bandits are watching us. Yeah, still no.
John Riley in the chat wins the no prize. The answer was Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin. So good job, John. You've earned nothing but my respect as a hard rocking guy.
Turtle Wars. Oh, Turtle Wars. Cheers from Turtle Wars. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. This
Turtle
episode
Wars.
was,
I'm surprised he's not upset with me for identifying those little Notis as hermit crabs and not turtles. I thought for sure they were turtles when they first appeared, but then I started to get hermit crab vibes off them. So
hey, if we can have horse dogs, we can have turtle crabs.
Turtle crabs, maybe.
Western Sunset Productions says, Devil's Advocate. It took Sabine more time, effort from landing to find Ezra than the Luke, Han, Chewie took from landing on the Death Star to find Leia. The escape is the real action. It took Sabine more time and effort than it did. Well, Sabine was traversing an entire planet. And with Leia, they found her because R2 was able to tap into the records and find out exactly where she was. So
Detention block AA-23.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't think they're equivalent. But nevertheless, Chris says, thanks for another great after show, RFR #1. Thanks, Chris. We appreciate that. We might, let's see, we'll get to a few more of these, and we're going to carry some of these over to the weekly show. So if you haven't listened to RFR, last week we cover the missing super chats, the lost super chats on the weekly shows, because we don't want to lose track of them. We want to make sure that you get your money's worth. Sir Django Fett says, making a prediction here, I think Ahsoka's crew ship will perform a solo maneuver to leave Paradia with Thrawn. You know, magnetically piggyback on the back end of Chimera's bridge undetected. That would work. I think. Unless you get blown off by the hyperdrives, all those hyperdrives. What do they got?
See, that's just the thing. It makes it so like anticlimactic is. I mean,
we already know what they're going to do.
No, Thrawn is going to succeed and make it back to the galaxy. I don't see what the point of this happening would have any other outcome. I mean, it just, there's the tension and stakes aren't there.
Yeah.
I think it's so heavily being telegraphed that Thrawn will succeed in returning. So
yeah,
I don't know what I don't know where the tension is, if there is any in this series.
I'm so nervous to try to say these names, these handles on these chats. I got burned last week.
Thank God, Mike.
Dr. Nix, I believe, says, hey, Jimmy and Jason, sorry if I missed this already or not, but when Thrawn tells Elsbeth he wants to know about Ahsoka's master and to borrow more dark magic, could we see a resurrected dark side Anakin? I don't know. Yeah, at the end, he's like, get me everything there is to know about Ahsoka. I will go into my study, and I will read, and then I will come up with the perfect plan. Yeah, I don't understand. You guys that love Thrawn so much. It's like watching blue paint dry. I'm just going to say it. Baylan Skoll is more interesting in 30 seconds on this show than every one of Thrawn's scenes added up together, in this guy's opinion. Good Lord, is he boring.
I have to agree.
I said it.
I have to agree. Yeah. I mean, well, you know, Thrawn, he's just doing what Thrawn does. I think it's a very consistent depiction of the character as we saw him in Rebels. I mean, having the same actor in there who provided the voice, now physically playing the character, I think helps. But I mean, yeah, he's just like, it's the same Thrawn. It's the same Thrawn.
Yeah, and that's great because people love Thrawn, but I don't get it. I don't get
Thrawn is
love.
yawn, someone in the chat says.
Well, on that note, I think we got to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Again, we'll get these super chats this week on the weekly Rebel Force Radio podcast, so make sure you check it out. It'll be dropping on Saturday. Big thanks to Tyler for helping us out this week, as always, screening the calls. Appreciate it, Tyler. Great callers this week.
Yeah, a lot of
and
first
an
time.
episode with lots to talk about. Anything that we might have missed? What were your thoughts on this week's episode?
It's just a heavy episode for me. I feel like there's just a lot to chew on. One thing that I picked up, I had an 8-hour car ride earlier, so I had a lot of time to just mold this over. And Iridia is, a genus of moths, and moths often symbolize transitions, death, and I feel like that really plays into the Nightsister theories and or the theories that all these night troopers are Nightsister creations. Other than that, I thought I heard a salacious crumb, like a modified salacious crumb cackle a couple times during the tower. That's probably just me being weird though. And then
I don't know. You're hearing salacious crumb laughs like just out of nowhere. That's kind of
it was
weird,
a modified version.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And then one of the callers brought this up. I thought it was pretty good. They keep calling them whales in the show, and he wants to keep it real. Call them Purgles. George was very specific on doing that early on. So
Purgles,
good call out. I think it was Scott, North Carolina. So
I'll push back on that.
All right,
if I can. I thought it was kind of fun hearing them call the Purgle space whales, and it made me think about formal versus common language in the Star Wars galaxy, and there's plenty of examples of things like this. Purgle equals space whale, all-terrain armored transport equals walkers, lightsaber, laser sword, Tusken Raiders, sand people from the very first film, battle droids, clankers, Millennium Falcon, bucket of bolts. No, I'm just kidding. What a piece of junk. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, the other examples, so I'm wondering, are there any other examples of formal versus common terminology in the Star Wars universe? Because George didn't keep it all that consistent. There were two names for the Tusken Raiders. There are 2 names for battle droids. George is the first one who ever had a character refer to a lightsaber as a laser sword, and that's what George called the lightsaber in early drafts of the original film. So I got that, and I await your response.
All right, well, I'll let Scott respond. Call in next week. I'm not taking that.
This is how quickly we forget some of the history of Star Wars. So I wouldn't jump on any of the characters for using more casual terminology as opposed to calling them Purgles. I think most of us would call them space whales.
It feels a little earthy, maybe. Maybe that's where he's coming from.
Yeah, I sometimes get hung up on that too. I've never been a fan when they use a Earth term or something that just feels so common, but it's, hey, it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's very possible that we ended up sharing some of the traditions, and so none of it's real anyway. But anyway, Tyler, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. We'll catch you next week. In the meantime, I'm guessing we have some final thoughts from Jimmy Mack.
Oh, yeah. I got a few things I scribbled down here, and I'm just going to spit them out, whether they have context or not. I find it interesting, a lot of the information we picked up on Baylan throughout this episode, most notably his notion that Sabine could be useful to him. And it's yet to be revealed what that use could possibly be. He thinks she's too distracted, looking for Ezra, but he still wants to keep her around so she can be useful. So I wonder what use he'll eventually find for her, because it's been said more than once now. More Baylan Skoll backstory. Thrawn refers to him as General Baylan Skoll, revealing that he served in the Clone Wars as a general, despite even only being just a little bit older than Shin Hati. During the time of Order 66, Baylan was like Anakin Skywalker, kind of serving as a very young Jedi general in the Clone Wars. Obviously, Thrawn wouldn't refer to him as general unless he did fight in the Clone Wars. Sabine, she's so gung-ho on fighting Ezra. I think it even shocks Thrawn a little bit that she's got such a self-centered nature, because he mentions that her singular focus will reshape the galaxy. And I don't think that is really resonating with Sabine, and it might actually be indicating she's more flawed than we ever thought she could be. I saw somebody in the chat saying she's a Mary Sue and all that stuff. I mean, true, battles always came easy for her. She could always figure out like the most complicated technical problems. She always had mad physical skills. A former Mandalorian warrior, former Imperial cadet, former weapons specialist, former bounty hunter, rebel against the Galactic Empire, Jedi Padawan, all before the age of 18. It's quite a resume, but I don't think she's a married Sue if she's got such a flaw like this that can take out the whole galaxy. I don't know what her deal is. Thrawn's plan to let Sabine find Ezra and then Baylan will kill them both, I think is flawed, because Ezra himself might be the power Baylan is seeking. And, it might bring out the old light side and faith out of Baylan Skoll, which seems to have left him. Strangely, it seems like he's taking his cues from the ancient stories that he heard Hu Wang tell, the Jedi younglings back in the temple. It seems like Baylan's putting more faith in those fairy tales than he is in his actual Jedi faith. And that might change for him. I was predicting earlier in the season that it could be Shin who flips, but maybe it's going to be Baylan. I don't know. Just an observational thing, I noticed Sabine was using the same scanner that Han used when trying to track Luke on Hoth when she was searching for Ezra, and made a similar sound effect, which I appreciate that consistency. Baylan mentioned Ezra Skoll. Ezra Bridger comes from a breed of Boken Jedi. Boken Jedi, trained in the wild after the Jedi Temple fell. So it almost seems like a derogatory term he's using to talk about Ezra. Like he's been trained as a Jedi, he can touch the Force, but he's really not a Jedi at the end of the day. He's this Boken Jedi. And Boken is the name of those training sabers we saw earlier in the season, those wooden swords that they were training with. It's used for martial arts training in the real world. And so the term Boken Jedi, wooden Jedi, training Jedi, I don't understand how that term works, and neither does Shin. She was wondering if that's what she was, but Baylan assures her she's not. She's being trained to be something more. And that something more could be a Force user who can tap into the dark side and the light side. We shall see. But Shin certainly has her doubts about the planet they're on right now, and doesn't seem to be in tune with the vibes that Baylan is getting about the place. So Baylan might be flawed in his approach at the end of the day. Thrawn orders the space whales to be shot down. I was wondering if that's even necessary if they go to there to die, but of course Ahsoka is a-coming, so he would look to destroy any sort of whale that might be traveling there with Ahsoka in its mouth. Ahsoka in the mouth. All in all, this episode, there was a lot of meat on the bone. I thought there was a lot to pick through. Not necessarily excited about the ease in which they found Ezra once they actually started looking for him in particular, but still, this episode had a lot of dense, rich world building. I am looking for higher stakes. The 3-day countdown is a start. They have 3 rotations before Chimera is going to get out of there. So if Ezra and Sabine and Baylan and Shin think they're going to be making it back to the galaxy, they better be on board the Chimera or on board the Ion when it takes off. So they got 3 days. So you get a little countdown. At least that gives us a deadline. But, in that meantime, let's find out what real power Paradia has for real. 2 episodes left. We still don't know why Ahsoka trained Sabine, why Ahsoka stopped training Sabine, why did Sabine, what did she do to lose Ahsoka's confidence? Why does Thrawn's return guarantee the return of the Empire in a new war? What was Ahsoka doing during the time of the OT and the Galactic Civil War? Why is Huang with Ahsoka? Why is he not with Luke? Where is Luke? Why hasn't Luke been brought into this? This seems like to be a pretty important mission. Well, you should have Luke Skywalker there if he's available. So, boy, oh boy. 2 episodes left, and if they're as meaty as this one, it should be a lot of fun. Let's just see what kind of plot twists and turns can happen, what information can be revealed to us as an audience to raise the stakes and make this a more exciting experience than it is. I just don't like setting up the pins and knocking them down every time without any sort of real tension and drama and conflict. Puff-a-Pig, not in this episode.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll be back next week for more Rebel Force Radio Ahsoka After Show, so make sure that you like and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's the exclusive home for these after shows, the video portion at least. Of course, you can subscribe to the podcast, Rebel Force Radio. That feed will not only get you these after shows, but also the weekly RFR. Next episode drops this Saturday morning, and we will get to those super chats that were left over. We love leftovers. Just put them in the microwave, warm them up a little bit, bring them out, and they're just as tasty. So we'll get to those this week and a whole lot more, of course. So keep it tuned here. Rebel Force Radio. We'll see you next time. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
And I'm, predictably, Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
Enoch Ewoks for the win.